Sometimes in order to appreciate the meaning of a particular scriptural text, it's often helpful to know the circumstances which surrounded its origin. And that's certainly the case with the letter to the Corinthians that we heard from this morning. Paul was a missionary. He traveled around the known world preaching about Jesus. And in one of his trips, he went to Corinth in Greece. At that time, Corinth was a melting pot, a city of immigrants who had settled in this commercial center. And Paul converted a great number of them and moved on to his next spot. Sometime later, he received a letter from the people of Corinth, some of the people of Corinth, and Paul was sad to hear that they had problems in their community and was quick to write back to them. And his response to the Corinthians is the letter that we heard from today and will continue to hear from for the next 2 weekends. Among other things, Paul heard that the Corinthians were divided into cliques. There were 4 different ones at least, and each group thought that they were the best and that they had the right answers. There were some other problems in Corinth as well. Some simply did not believe in the resurrection, or others were behaving in ways which were causing problems, but they saw nothing wrong with their own particular actions. What Paul did was write to them and, in our vernacular, told them, shape up. He told them that they were all baptized into Christ, and among other things, this baptism ought to create a unity among them that needed to be reflected in their own actions. He did this in various ways, and one way was to use pictures or images to try to get the people to understand who they were and how they were supposed to be living. Today's section highlights the fact that the people in Corinth, and really the people here in Mashpee, needed to see themselves as part of the same church, and he used the image of a body. As you have many parts to the body, head, torso, limbs, arms, etc., you are nevertheless one body. And not all parts can do the same things, but all are important for the well-being of the body. Paul was trying to get the people to see that the factions or cliques that they had were not healthy for the body. One part of the body should not say to the other, I do not need you. One part cannot say to the other, since you are hurting, I am not hurting. What might all this mean to you and me, especially members of a family or community that we call family? In a way, we are just like the crowd in the first reading who gathered around to hear the word of God, in this case, Paul's letter to the Corinthians. We are men, women, and children old enough to understand. And the same word is read to us, and in a sense, the same meaning is given to all of us, but maybe the application gets specific in some of our cases. If your family, for example, in your family, for example, you all need one another, even though you're different parts of the one body. Parents and children need to get along. Children need to get along with brothers and sisters. We're not healthy if we're constantly fighting with one another. We need to forgive and forget at times. Not everything can or should be weighed on scales that say, you don't need to get any more than me. This applies not only to our immediate family, but also to adult children who often retain the tensions they experienced as young children and teenagers into their adult living and still carry on those tensions. Paul says that we need to be aware of the basic unity that exists among us. And as we bring this liturgy of the word to a close, Let us recommit ourselves to peace and unity within our families and within our community.